Well, Mr. Speaker, I just want to thank the distinguished gentleman from Georgia for yielding this time. One of the great hopes that I see that portends for a better future for America is to see men like Doug Collins join this group and this Congress. Mr. Speaker, you know, it seems like we are never quite so eloquent as when we are decrying the crimes of a past generation. While we oftentimes remain as staggering blind as some of our most intellectually sightless predecessors when it comes to facing and rejecting atrocities in our own time. Whether it was slavery or the many human genocides across history, the patterns were the same. Mr. Speaker, innocent human beings, children of God all, were systematically dehumanized and then subjected to the most horrifying inhumanity. All the while, human society as a whole at first hardened their hearts and turned away. But, Mr. Speaker, truth and time travel on the same road. And though it was often agonizingly slow, the truth of these tragic inhumanities in our past began to dawn on the people of reason and goodwill. Their hearts first, and then their minds began to change. You know, Mr. Speaker, I've often asked myself, what was it? What was it that changed their minds? What changed the minds of those who had previously embraced an almost invincible ignorance to hide from themselves the horror of what was happening to their innocent fellow human beings? I so wish I knew that answer, Mr. Speaker. Because you see, today, such a conundrum looms before humanity again. The most glaring recent example of which are the gut-wrenching revelations surrounding the trial and conviction in Philadelphia of Dr. Kermit Gosnell. In the words of the grand jury report, Gosnell had a simple solution for unwanted babies. He killed them. He didn't call it that. He called it, quote, ensuring fetal demise. The way he ensured fetal demise was by sticking open scissors in the back of the child's neck and cutting the spinal cord. He called it snipping. Over the years, there were hundreds of snippings. When authorities entered the clinic of Dr. Gosnell, they found a torture chamber for little babies that I do not have the words or the stomach to adequately describe. Suffice it to say that Dr. Gosnell ran a systematic practice in his late-term abortion clinic to cut the spines of those babies who had survived his attempt to abort them. Ashley Baldwin, one of Dr. Gosnell's employees, said she saw babies breathing, and she described one as 2 feet long that no longer had eyes or mouth, but in her words was like making this, quote, screeching sound, and it, quote, sounded like a little alien. And for God's sake, Mr. Speaker, we are better than that. America is better than that. And yet, if Kermit Gosnell had killed these children he now stands convicted of murdering before they had passed through the birth canal only a few moments earlier, it would have all been perfectly legal in many states in this the land of the free and the home of the brave. Mr. Speaker, more than 325 late-term unborn babies were torturously killed without anesthesia in America just yesterday. And many of them, so many of them, cried and screamed as they died. But because it was amniotic fluid going over the vocal cords instead of air, we couldn't hear them. And all of them had at least 4 things in common. First, they were just little babies who had done nothing wrong to anyone on earth. And each one of them died aimless, lonely, and agonizing death. And each one of their mothers was callously abandoned to deal with the emotional results that will inevitably follow. And all the gifts that these children might have brought to humanity, Mr. Speaker, are lost forever. So if there's one thing we must not miss about this unspeakably evil episode, it is that Kermit Gosnell is not an anomaly. He is the face of this murderous Fortune 500 enterprise of killing helpless unborn children in the United States of America. And with all of the distortions and the bait and switch tactics opponents have hurled at the pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act leading up to this historic floor debate, the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act is very truly and simply a deeply sincere effort to protect both mothers and their pain-capable unborn babies entering their 6th month of gestation from heartless monsters like Kermit Gosnell. Given the cataclysmic implications, Mr. Speaker, for any society who turns a blind eye to atrocities cruelly forced upon the most innocent and helpless of its members, would it be too much? Would it be too much? Would it be too much to hope for that members of this body and Americans in general might research this issue and learn the truth of it for themselves? Because you see, Mr. Speaker, the real question in the debate before us is not whether these unborn children entering their 6th month of gestation are capable of feeling pain. The real question is, are we? If our society is to survive with our humanity intact, our human compassion toward our fellow human beings must first survive. 50 million children, 50 million dead children are enough. That is why it's so important for people to see for themselves the humanity of these little victims and the inhumanity of what is being done to them. Now, maybe it won't change everyone's mind, but it has changed so many minds. And the most of these changed minds share a common thread. They were confronted with the brutal reality of abortion on demand, and something inside them could no longer deny the truth, and they could no longer condone the murder of a defenseless child. What changed their minds? Perhaps I will really never understand what sparked that change in their hearts, Mr. Speaker. But I am convinced of one thing, that it is the same spark in the human soul that has turned the tide of blood and tragedy and hatred and inhumanity throughout human history. And whatever else it is, Mr. Speaker, it is mankind's only hope. I yield back.
Yield back.